Welcome to English Mastery Daily. In today's lesson, we're going to explore advanced vocabulary for more fluent and professional communication. This session is designed to help you develop real, practical speaking confidence through structured practice and clear strategies. To communicate at a more advanced level, one essential requirement is having access to a broad and flexible vocabulary range. In real-world situations, whether you are attending a job interview, delivering a presentation, or even going out socially, you want to avoid repeating the same basic words. Repetition limits your expression and reduces the impression of fluency. In this lesson, you'll be introduced to 1, 2, 3 advanced alternatives that you can actively incorporate into your everyday English. Let's examine this more closely by starting with a very common idea: asking for help. Most learners frequently say, "I need help." While this is correct, it's quite basic. From a practical perspective, there are more natural and nuanced ways to express the same idea. For example, you can say, "Could you walk me through?" followed by the specific task you're struggling with. For instance, "Could you walk me through how to export this document?" Here's what truly matters. The expression "to walk someone through something" means to guide someone step by step, offering a detailed explanation of a process. Another alternative is, "any chance you know how to export this document?" In spoken English, native speakers often shorten "is there any chance" to simply "any chance." This is a natural reduction that makes your speech sound more fluent and less formal. You can also use "would you mind" followed by a gerund. For example, "would you mind showing me how to export this document?" The key distinction here is grammatical. After "would you mind," you must use the ing form. Let's continue with another practical expression. Do you have a sec? A sec is a shortened form of a second, meaning a brief moment. For example, "do you have a sec to help me out with this document?" Notice the phrase "help me out," which adds a more conversational tone. Now let's move to another everyday situation, expressing lack of understanding. Instead of always saying "I don't understand," you can say "I don't get." For example, "I don't get how to export this document." In this context, get functions as a synonym for understand, and it is widely used in informal and semi-formal communication. Another useful structure is "I'm having trouble." For instance, "I'm having trouble exporting the document." This uses the present continuous, emphasizing that the difficulty is happening right now. You can also say, "I'm having trouble with the document," where the focus shifts from the action to the object. If you want to sound more precise, try, "I'm not entirely clear on how to export this document." The word "entirely" intensifies the statement, making it sound more thoughtful and professional. Alternatively, "I'm struggling to understand this." Again, the present continuous highlights an ongoing challenge. Now let's consider how to express the need for more time. Instead of saying "I need more time," you can say "I'm not going to make the deadline." In real-world communication, native speakers frequently use "make" to mean achieve or meet, especially with deadlines. Another option is "we need to push back the deadline." Push back is a phrasal verb meaning to postpone. You could also use the more formal verb postpone. You might also say, "I'm running behind on the project." This indicates that progress is slower than expected. A particularly useful expression is, "we need to buy some time with the client." Here's what truly matters. Buy time doesn't involve money. It means to delay or stall in order to create more time for preparation. Now let's shift to describing a busy schedule. Instead of saying "I'm really busy," you can say "I'm swamped." Pay attention to pronunciation. Swamped ends with a soft T sound. For example, "I'm swamped right now," or "I was swamped yesterday." You can add detail. "I'm swamped with the project T's," or "I'm swamped because of the project." Notice that "because" requires "of" when followed by a noun phrase. Another expression is, "the project is taking up all my time." The phrasal verb "take up" means to consume or occupy. You can also say, my schedule is jam-packed this week. Jam-packed intensifies the idea of being very full or busy. You can also simply say packed, but adding jam makes it more natural and expressive. Similarly, things are really hectic right now. Hectic is a stronger, more dynamic alternative to busy. Now let's move into expressing opinions. Instead of asking, what's your opinion, you can say, what's your take on this? If the topic is already clear, you can shorten it to, what's your take? For a more formal tone, consider, what's your perspective? What's your view? What's your point of view? Or what's your viewpoint? All of these provide variation and allow you to adapt your tone depending on the situation. In more casual contexts, you can say, how do you see this? For example, I see this as a positive development. How do you see this? When giving your own opinion, pay attention to prepositions. In my opinion, from my perspective, from my viewpoint. These small details significantly improve accuracy and fluency. Now let's explore how to express disagreement more diplomatically. Instead of directly saying, that's not a good idea, you can soften your tone with, I'm not sure about that. To make it even less direct, I'm not too sure about that. In professional environments, you might say, I have some concerns about the conference, or I have some reservations about the conference. You could also say, I have some doubts about the conference. Each of these adds a level of politeness and professionalism. To encourage reflection, you can ask, have you thought about? For example, have you thought about canceling the conference? Remember, this structure requires a gerund ing form. Finally, when preparing to take action, you can say, before we move forward, we need to consider the cost. The phrase move forward refers to progressing or taking the next step. The key takeaway from this lesson is that advanced fluency is not about using complicated words. It's about choosing precise, natural expressions that match real-world communication. By expanding your vocabulary in this structured way, you'll sound more confident, more professional, and more fluent in every situation. Hopefully, in your daily interactions, you're often exposed to strong ideas or useful suggestions. In those moments, instead of relying on the basic response, that's a great idea, you can elevate your language by saying, I can get behind that idea. From a practical perspective, to get behind something means to support or endorse it. It's a natural conversational expression that signals agreement in a more sophisticated way. Another powerful response is, you're really on to something. Let's examine this more closely. When someone is onto something, it indicates that they are heading in the right direction or making meaningful progress toward a good solution. For example, I really think you're onto something here. This not only shows agreement, but also encouragement. You can also say, that's spot on. Here's what truly matters. Spot on means completely accurate or exactly correct. Similarly, native speakers often say 100%. But in natural pronunciation, this becomes 100% with reduced stress on percent. In real-world communication, simply replying 100% is a concise and confident way to express full agreement. Both spot on and 100% function as strong affirmations. Now let's shift to a workplace context where meetings and coordination are part of daily communication. Instead of saying, let's meet to discuss this, you can ask, are you free to go over this? The key distinction is that go over means to review something, often collaboratively, and usually involves discussion. You might also ask, when are you free? This invites the other person to suggest a specific time. Another useful phrase is, can we touch base on this soon? In real-world communication, touch base means to connect briefly in order to discuss or update something. If you want to be more specific, you can say, does Monday at 11 a.m. work for you? You may optionally add the purpose to discuss this, but it's not always necessary. Alternatively, let's set aside some time. To set aside time means to intentionally reserve or allocate time for a particular purpose. You can extend this with, let's set aside some time to iron out the details. Here's what truly matters. Iron out is a phrasal verb meaning to resolve issues or finalize details, especially when there is some uncertainty or minor conflict. Now let's talk about initiating action. Instead of repeatedly saying, let's start, you can say, let's get the ball rolling. This idiom simply means to begin something. Another dynamic expression is, let's hit the ground running. This goes beyond just starting. It implies beginning with strong energy, focus, and momentum. You can also keep it simple but natural with, let's do it. For example, if someone asks, should we start dinner now? A fluent response would be, let's do it. Additional alternatives include, let's get going, let's get moving, let's get cracking. Notice the pattern. After get, the following verb appears in the ing form. For a more casual and energetic tone, you can say, it's go time. This expression signals that the moment to begin has arrived. Now let's consider situations where you need to decline or cancel plans. Instead of saying, I can't attend, you can say, I can't make the meeting. As discussed earlier, make can mean attend in this context. A very natural alternative is, I can't make it, where it refers to the event. You might also say, sorry, I have a scheduling conflict. This indicates that another commitment overlaps at the same time. Similarly, I'm already booked. This conveys that your schedule is full at that specific time. For a more formal tone, unfortunately, I have another commitment. This sounds professional and appropriate in business settings. You can also be direct, I'm not available at that time, or simply, I'm not free, with the option to specify the exact time. Now let's move to describing relationships and teamwork. Instead of saying they work well together, you can say they have a strong rapport. Pay attention to pronunciation. The T in rapport is silent. You can also describe a group as close-knit. Here's what truly matters. The K in knit is silent, and the phrase requires the verb to be, as in, they're close-knit. You can use it as an adjective. They're a close-knit team. They're a close-knit family. They're a close-knit group of friends. It can also apply to communities. These are close-knit communities. Other alternatives include, they have a positive working relationship. They have a supportive working relationship. Another useful expression is, they complement each other. If two people or things complement each other, they function well together because their strengths balance one another, like cookies and milk. Now let's shift to greetings and small talk, which are essential in everyday communication. A very common greeting, especially in North America, is, how's it going? Pronunciation matters here. It often sounds like, how's it going, with a smooth, connected rhythm. Another classic expression is, long time no see. You can follow it with a reason. I was on vacation, so I couldn't watch your lessons. You can also ask, what have you been up to? Let's examine this structure. Up to means doing, and the tense is present perfect continuous, used to ask about recent activities. Words like lately or recently can be added, but they are optional. A natural sequence might be, how's it going? Long time no see. What have you been up to? When greeting someone again, you can say, nice to see you again. To vary your language, you can replace nice with great, lovely, wonderful, or simply good. In spoken English, it's common to omit the subject and verb. Instead of it's nice to see you again, just say nice to see you again. Another useful question is, how's your day been so far? This is equivalent to, how has your day been going so far? But the verb going is often omitted because the meaning is clear. Finally, let's explore how to ask about preferences and opinions. A very practical question is, how does that sound to you? For example, how does going on vacation sound to you? Notice that when using a verb, it must be in the ing form. Alternatively, you can use a noun. How does a vacation sound to you? You can also ask, are you more of a coffee person or a tea person? The structure here is, are you more of a noun or noun? For example, Are you more of a morning person or a night person? Are you more of a stay-in person or a go-out person? In some cases, you can omit the word person entirely if the meaning remains clear. Let's continue by expanding how to talk about preferences, choices, and reactions in a more flexible and natural way. You can describe someone as a spender or a saver. A spender is someone who tends to spend money freely, while a saver is someone who prefers to keep and accumulate money. This type of vocabulary allows you to describe personality traits more precisely. Another highly useful structure is would you rather. Here's what truly matters. This pattern is followed by the base form of a verb. For example, would you rather stay in or go out? The structure is would you rather plus base verb plus or plus base verb. You can apply this in many contexts. Would you rather fly or drive? Would you rather have sushi or pizza? Would you rather watch a movie or go dancing? Now let's move to another key question. How do you feel about that? This is an essential expression for inviting someone's opinion. Similarly, you can ask, what do you think about that? The key distinction is grammatical. After about, you need either a gerund or a noun. For example, how do you feel about going dancing tonight? What do you think about a walk tonight? Let's now focus on expressing your own preferences and opinions more naturally. You can say, honestly, I think it's great. Or in a different context, honestly, I think you look great. You might also say, I think going on vacation is a great idea, where the gerund going functions as the subject. Another alternative is, to be honest, I'm not a big fan of it. From a practical perspective, honestly and to be honest are interchangeable. After a fan of, you must use a noun or a gerund. A very common and natural phrase is, it's totally your call. If something is your call, it means the decision is entirely yours. You can also say, I'd go with this one. Let's examine this more closely. I'd is the contraction of I would, and go with means to choose or support a particular option. Another important expression is, I get where you're coming from. If you want to emphasize it, you can say, I totally get where you're coming from. This means you understand someone's perspective or reasoning, even if you don't fully agree. Now let's move into apologizing. You can say, sorry about that. In spoken English, it's common to omit I'm and simply say sorry about. If you include a verb, it should be in the gerund form. Sorry about spilling coffee on your white rug. A more informal option is my bad. This is casual and commonly used in everyday conversation. You can also say, I didn't mean to, and then complete the thought. I didn't mean to spill the coffee. Sometimes a simple reaction like whoops or oops is used when a mistake happens, especially in minor situations. A particularly meaningful expression is, I'll make it up to you. Here's what truly matters. This means you will compensate for the mistake or correct the situation. For example, sorry about spilling coffee on your rug. I'll make it up to you. This could involve cleaning it yourself or paying for the damage. Now let's talk about expressing gratitude. Instead of just saying thank you, you can say thanks a bunch. This is friendly and informal. Another option is I really appreciate it. Notice that thank you is implied rather than stated directly. You can also say, you're the best. This can stand alone or be followed by thanks. A stronger expression is, I can't thank you enough. This conveys deep appreciation. A very casual and enthusiastic option is, you rock. The key distinction is structural. You must say, you rock, not you are rock. Now let's explore how to react to news or unexpected situations. You can say, are you serious? Or simply, seriously, or really. Another expressive reaction is, no way. This requires energy and emphasis to sound natural. You can also say, that's unbelievable. This is an alternative to, I can't believe it. A stronger reaction is, you've got to be kidding me. This can express shock, disbelief, or even frustration. A very natural and expressive phrase is, wow, I didn't see that coming. Let's examine this more closely. If you didn't see something coming, It means you didn't expect it. These reactions can apply to both positive and negative situations depending on context. For example, receiving a gift, wow, I didn't see that coming. Or hearing surprising bad news, you've got to be kidding me. Now let's move on to making social plans. You can ask, are you free tonight? Or do you want to hang out this weekend? To hang out means to spend time together in a relaxed social way. Another option is, let's get together this weekend. To get together means to meet as a group or socially. You can also say, how about we grab coffee after work? Here's what truly matters. Grab is an informal way of saying get or have, and it's extremely common. For example, let's grab lunch. Are you free to grab a bite? A bite refers to food. Let's go grab some coffee. Another useful phrase is we need to catch up. To catch up means to spend time sharing updates and news. Now let's return to asking for help. You can say, could you give me a hand with this? Or can you lend me a hand? Both mean to help. After with, you can use a noun or a gerund, with dinner or with making dinner. Another important structure is, do you mind? Followed by a gerund. For example, do you mind driving me to the airport? You can also say, would you do me a favor? Notice the collocation, you do someone a favor. A stronger request is, I could really use your help. This indicates that the help is genuinely needed. Now let's look at how to offer help. You can say, let me know if you need a hand. Here, a hand again means help. Another option, I'd be happy to help. I'd is the contraction of I would, and it is followed by the infinitive, to help or to lend you a hand. You can also say, if you need anything, just ask, or I'm here if you need anything. This creates a supportive and open tone. Finally, a very strong and reassuring expression is, don't worry, I've got your back. In real-world communication, this means you are fully supportive and ready to help in any situation. Let's begin by reinforcing a powerful expression of support. Don't worry, I've got your back. From a practical perspective, this phrase communicates strong reassurance. It means you are there to support someone, to protect them, and to help them if needed. In real-world communication, it carries a deeper emotional weight than simply saying, I'll help you. Now let's transition into ways to say goodbye more naturally and flexibly. You can start with bye and extend it by adding take care or simply say take care on its own. Another common option is see you later. These expressions can be combined bye, see you later, take care. Instead of later, you can be more specific depending on the context. See you soon, see you tomorrow, see you at the movies. Adding a specific time or place makes your communication clearer and more natural. A very common casual expression is, have a good one. You'll often hear this from service workers, such as at a grocery store. The word one is intentionally vague. It can refer to a day, night, afternoon, or evening. If you prefer, you can be more specific. Have a good day, have a good night, and so on. Another useful phrase is talk to you soon. Just like before, you can replace soon with a more specific time reference. Talk to you later, talk to you tomorrow, or even talk to you at the meeting. You can also say drive safe. However, here's what truly matters. This expression only works if the person is actually driving. If not, you should say safe travels, which is more general and can apply to any form of transportation. Now let's move into a highly important section, phrasal verbs, specifically those that are often confusing but essential for advanced fluency. First, consider the phrase to call someone out. This means to confront or criticize someone, often publicly, for their behavior. For example, she called him out for not keeping his promises. In this case, the criticism was made openly. Now compare that with to call out to someone. The meaning changes significantly. Here it means to shout in order to get someone's attention. For example, he called out to his friend across the street. The purpose is simply to be heard. The key distinction is structural and semantic. Call someone out equals criticize publicly. Call out to someone, equals shout to attract attention. Next, let's examine jump in. This means to enter a conversation or situation, usually in a positive and welcome way. For instance, feel free to jump in with your ideas. This invites participation. You might also hear, it's great to see her jumping in during meetings, meaning she is actively contributing. Now contrast this with butt in. This has a negative connotation. It means to interrupt or intrude in an unwelcome way. For example, he kept butting in while I was presenting. This suggests rudeness. A related expression is butt out, which means to stop interfering. You should just butt out. It's none of your business. So the contrast is clear. Jump in equals positive participation. Butt in equals negative interruption. Butt out equals stop interfering. Now let's move to come up with. This means to think of or create an idea, plan, or solution. For example, they came up with a new marketing strategy. It emphasizes the creative process. In contrast, come out with means to release or introduce something new, typically a product. For example, the company came out with a new smartphone. This focuses on making something available to the public. So come up with equals create an idea. Come out with equals launch a product. Next, consider back out of. This means to withdraw from a commitment you previously agreed to. For example, she backed out of the deal at the last minute. On the other hand, back something up means to make a copy of data to prevent loss. For instance, you should back up your files regularly. So back out of equals cancel participation. Back up equals create a backup copy. Now let's look at catch on. This means to begin understanding something. For example, it took him a while, but he finally caught on. The realization happens over time. Next is catch up to someone, which means to reach the same level or pace. For example, we need to walk faster to catch up to them. There is also catch up on something, which means to complete tasks you missed. For example, I need to catch up on my work. So catch on, catch up to, reach someone's level. Catch up on, complete unfinished tasks. Now let's examine get across. This means to successfully communicate an idea. For example, he tried to get his point across in the meeting. It emphasizes clarity in communication. Another useful expression is cheer on. This means to support or encourage someone, often loudly or enthusiastically. For example, the fans cheered on their team. In contrast, cheer up has a different function. It means to become happier or to make someone feel happier. The key takeaway from this section is that small changes in prepositions can completely transform the meaning of phrasal verbs. Mastering these distinctions is essential if you want to communicate clearly and naturally at an advanced level. Let's continue by exploring the distinction between cheer on and cheer up, as this is a common area of confusion. To cheer someone up means to make someone feel happier or for someone to become happier themselves. For example, I brought him a coffee to cheer him up. In this case, the action is intended to improve someone's mood. You might also hear, they tried hard to cheer us up, which emphasizes effort in lifting someone's spirits. Now, let's connect this with the earlier expression, cheer on. You could say, the fact that you came to cheer me on really cheered me up. Here's what truly matters. Cheer on is about encouragement and support, often expressed energetically, while cheer up focuses on emotional improvement. Next, consider the phrasal verb carry on. Most learners are familiar with this one. It means to continue doing something even when there are challenges or obstacles. For example, she decided to carry on with her studies despite the difficulties. Now compare that with carry out. This has a different meaning. It refers to completing or performing a task, plan, or action. For instance, they carried out the experiment successfully. It emphasizes execution rather than continuation. Let's look at both together. Let's carry on with the experiments. Here you must use with when specifying the activity. Have you carried out the first test? Here, the object comes directly after the verb, so the distinction is clear. Carry on with something, continue. Carry something out, complete, or perform. Now let's move to look into. This means to investigate or examine something in detail. For example, the company is looking into the issue. It implies a deeper level of analysis. In contrast, look over means to review something quickly or casually. For example, she looked over the document before signing. This suggests a lighter, less detailed check. You can combine both ideas. I looked into the company and didn't find any red flags. Red flags refers to warning signs or potential problems. I still need to look over the contract, meaning a final review is needed. Next, let's examine check in with someone. This means to contact or speak with someone to see how they are doing or whether they need help. For example, he checked in with his supervisor before leaving. In practice, this could be as simple as asking, "Do you need anything before I go?" Now compare that with check up on someone. This means to monitor or observe someone to ensure everything is okay. For instance, I check up on my dad every day after his accident. However, here's an important nuance. Check up on can sometimes carry a negative implication, suggesting a lack of trust. For example, my boss checks up on me every 5 minutes. This implies excessive supervision. So, check in with equals supportive communication. Check up on equals monitoring, sometimes intrusive. Now let's move to hang out. This is a very common expression meaning to spend time together in a relaxed, social way. For example, we hung out at home all weekend. You can also say, let's hang out soon. Do not confuse this with hang up, which means to end a phone call. For example, she hung up before they decided where to hang out. The meanings are completely different despite the similarity in form. Next, consider break up with someone. This means to end a romantic relationship. For example, he broke up with his girlfriend last month. You can also say, we broke up. I broke up with him. He broke up with me. When the subject is mutual, you don't need to specify with someone. Now compare this with break something up. This means to divide something into smaller parts. For example, the teacher broke up the assignment into 3 sections. Here's what truly matters. I broke up with her ended a relationship. I broke her up sounds unnatural and implies physically dividing someone, which is incorrect in this context. This highlights how sensitive phrasal verbs are to structure and word order. Even small changes can completely alter the meaning. Phrasal verbs can feel overwhelming because of these subtle but critical differences. However, mastering them is essential for achieving natural, fluent communication. Focus on patterns, pay attention to prepositions, and always consider context. Speaking English confidently is a skill you build through consistency, awareness, and daily practice. If you found this lesson valuable, make sure to subscribe to English Mastery Daily for more structured training sessions every week. Keep practicing, stay consistent, and I'll see you in the next lesson.